afternoon. We appreciate you joining us for Facebook Live. In the next 10 or 15 minutes, we really want to talk about travel insurance. It's been an incredibly hot topic for 2021. In the next few minutes, we just want to discuss, the major benefits and coverages of travel insurance, things to think about, things that COVID has been added to travel insurance, and maybe some tips for things that you consider going forward in 2021. With us, we have our partner, Lynn Barty from Arch RoamRight. And with that said, Lynn, can you maybe first tell us a little bit about Arch RoamRight and some of the things that you guys have been working on in COVID land?
Sure. So welcome, everybody. Arch RoamRight has been in the industry over 30 years. They are a publicly traded company, so you will see us out there a lot. Now, with the travel insurance, the part that we have here is we're a smaller group within a big company, so we're able to give personalized service to the agents or whoever needs it. Our customer service, we were just on the phone this afternoon. They have been for their answer calls in like 52 seconds right now. They're saying it goes, abandon rate is only 1%, so it's not there. Our claims process now is at, they're answering claims within 8 days. So that is definitely, picked up where they try to do that in 5 days, the information. So that's a little bit about us. So we're very customer service. We've won a lot of awards. So that's like the majority. What you look for in a partner is someone that's with you.
Excellent. Thanks, Lynn. We've been working with you guys for years, and it's always been a pleasure. The customer service is always fantastic, and our clients are always very satisfied with if they have a problem. So let's just go right into it. They're in the travel insurance. When you buy travel insurance, there's two different coverages. The first part will be called the travel arrangement protection. And then the other part will be travel insurance benefits. Can you tell us a little bit about first what the protection, the travel protection does for when you purchase it, and what the travel benefits cover? Because that's something always a little bit confusing for people.
When we call with travel arrangement, what that is really cancellation coverage. So you get coverage before you are to leave. So what you try to ensure when you're doing it is your non-refundable trip cost, because that's all the insurance company will pay you if you become sick or cancel for a covered reason.
Gotcha.
With that travel arrangement, with the cancellation part, you get what's called the next part that we call travel insurance benefits. So when you buy a cancellation policy or the travel arrangements, you get the bottom half, which is called your travel benefits. What that is the medical evac, trip delay, baggage. So those types of packages are included. People can buy that package that we were just talking about, the travel insurance benefits, without cancellation. You can't get cancellation or travel arrangement without the bottom part. You can get the bottom part. And most people, which is a good, upseller for us to look at, or not even upsell for any traveler, is to think about, does your medical pay when you're outside of the country? The next thing is trip delay. You get stuck in a connection or anything happens. We have snowstorms, we have, hurricanes. You might incur a delay, which that would pay for that type of delays.
Gotcha. So, when you're really looking at this, it's really important to understand, what part of your trip is non-refundable. And if you have a $10,000 in non-refundable trip cost, that's probably your starting point that you want to insure, so that if it is canceled, you can recoup those monies if it's a covered reason. Right. And then, so I guess the other thing about one of the things that you were just kind of mentioning is that, a client or people can buy insurance to protect for the arrangement protection, but you can just buy the insurance benefits separately. So those are two different ways that you can purchase the insurance, depending on what you want to insure. And that's when, somebody at LA Travel Group can help somebody talk through what they're trying to insure and what the right thing might be to do. So let me ask, in terms of, there's one big thing, and it's always a question for clients. There's a lot of benefit that a client receives if they purchase their travel insurance within 21 days of their initial deposit. So once you have money down or a reservation down, that's a deposit. And so the clock starts ticking. What are some of those additional benefits that somebody gets if they purchase the insurance 21 days after their initial deposit?
So the first benefit that's great is called your pre-existing condition waiver. And what a pre-existing condition waiver means is that if you are to cancel for a covered reason, let's say you get ill, they're not going to look back into your medical health history 60 days from the time that you purchased the insurance. If you think about it logically, in the insurance company's mind, if you wait outside of that, there's likely possibly something happened to you, and that's why you're buying the insurance. So if you think of it that way, it kind of simplifies it a bit. The other thing, but in order to get your pre-X waiver, I just want to tell you, you have to, when you're buying it, fit, stable, and able to travel at the time of purchase to get your pre-X waiver. So if you're scheduled to go in for surgery, now you buy the insurance, you're not going to have the pre-X waiver, even if you buy it within the 21 days, because everything about insurance in the world, it's unforeseen. So it's an unforeseen happening. If you know you're going in for surgery, it's not unforeseen at that point. The next thing that you get, which I think is great, is a cancel for business reasons. Our cancel for business reasons, you cannot be a business owner. You have to be employed by somebody. The next one that you get also is, unfortunately, in these day and ages, we have to talk about bankruptcy. So bankruptcy coverage is another thing that's added on in the 21 days if you buy it.
Bankruptcy coverage in terms of the provider that you're working with?
In terms of, let's say you're going a cruise line or a tour operator or different things. But with that, what I want to tell, if you guys can, when you're doing it, pay by your credit card. A credit card is the best way to pay things, because under a bankruptcy, you can go under services not rendered under that way. Even though that we do have coverage if you don't, but really your credit cards have coverage that way as well.
Got it.
But the pre-X waiver, and I love the cancel for business reasons in it. But when people do wait, you can wait and buy it up to the end. But usually if something happens at that point, you're not going to be covered.
Yeah.
And it gets, complicated.
I think always a term that you've always used is that, the insurance company is there to ensure what is unknown. And so they're always going to look back to figure out if something happened that reason why you purchased. So you're always trying to ensure the unknown. And that's
Right.
what you always have to remember. And I think it comes up to the point also where the other advantage of buying some insurance is, if I remember correctly, you can increase and decrease the amount of insurance you buy as you build your trip. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you can buy your insurance at, 10 days after your first deposit. And then let's say you insure $10,000 and then you can increase it to $15,000. But if you cancel something, you decrease it to $5,000. You'll get all those benefits within the 21 days, but then you can manage how you're going to, the amount that you're actually insuring, if I remember correctly.
Yes, you adjust your trip costs as you go along. You like to lock it in at first, that 21 days. So you lock in whatever deposit or whatever coverage it is. And at that point, that's what happens. You're covered for that pre-X waiver.
Gotcha. So we've talked about the term covered reason a lot already. I think we probably mentioned it. I mentioned it at least 3 times. You probably mentioned it 3 times already. So, what is a covered reason, and why is that term important when somebody's buying travel insurance?
So with buying travel insurance, there's a list of covered reasons. Insurance cannot pay for 100% of everything. So everybody has a list of covered reasons that will be on the brochure going down. The majority of the covered reasons that we would be going or paying on are first illness. So if you become ill and cannot travel, now with being ill, you have to have a physician's report that comes over. It's a sheet that the doctor fills out saying you're unable to travel at that time. And I'll mention while we're in here, yes, COVID is a covered illness. If you are to come down and get sick with COVID and you cannot travel, that's a covered reason to cancel. The next thing cancellation that we get a lot of is weather. So if a storm comes in and the airport shut down, immediately that's a covered reason. Then we have cancel for business reasons. Some of the others that we have that actually in this day and age, like thinking about it, is people are booking, a year or two in advance. We have normal pregnancy. So if you become pregnant after you buy the insurance, that's a covered reason to cancel. Or if you have a daughter or like son that they're planning on having a child and they get pregnant after you buy the insurance, that's a covered reason to cancel. And I'm seeing a lot of people, when you're thinking about it now, that's something, because people are planning 2 years in advance to travel.
Yep, got it.
So those are the majority. And then if we go into not a covered reason, what happened a lot was that you think complete cessation of services. So when everything unfortunately had shut down, that's not a covered reason. The vendors are the ones at that point having to give you your money back because they're not providing the service.
Gotcha.
And then the next one too is fear.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ron. Fear of traveling. Mm-hmm. You cannot, that's not a covered reason, unfortunately. I know I couldn't say to you, yes, I want you to go, but that's not listed. Because if we had listed, and it's not listed in anyone's insurance, civil unrest is not a listed covered reason. So those are ones that are having, a lot of questions. Or if there's a travel ban going there, the travel bans aren't covered. So no one has travel bans. No one has civil unrest. No one has fear of traveling. Those are not covered reasons under anybody's policy that's out there.
Perfect. And so one thing that comes up a lot too in regards to a covered reason, let's say, it's, there's a family of 5, 2 adults, 3 kids, and they buy travel insurance, but then all of a sudden, the grandparent who is not traveling with them gets sick, and talk a little bit about the coverage, if that's a covered reason or not, and how would you apply for that?
Yeah. So a non-traveling family member, if they are to get sick, they're going to need a worsening of their current condition in order for you to cancel the trip. In doing that, you do need that 21-day pre-ex waiver for them as well to show a worsening of their condition. You do have to show that there's some type of, that they need you there. Like you couldn't have, let's say I'm in New York, my aunt in, California gets sick. Not that I have to go there. You have to show some reason why. In there, they might ask, why do you need to cancel your trip? Because I always think with the insurance company, insurance is based on statistics. So they look at the age, the pricing is the age and the trip cost. So actuaries come and put all these numbers together and say, what are the odds based on our covered reasons? So sometimes they come in and look at it, with doing what's going on. Mm-hmm. If I go back, one thing more, our claims rate for paying claims, and we're saying payable claims. So if you put in all the information and put everything, is basically a 92% we're paying the claims. If you have a justifiable, reason going in there.
That's amazing. Lucy Beck has a question. When if you buy insurance, let's say 10 days after your initial deposit, mm-hmm. And you want to add or decrease the amount that you're insuring, is there time requirements or what?
We don't have it. Yeah, we don't have it specified. I always try to do, if you add new things, 21 days, and if you increase a deposit or do some, I suggest you do it right away so right. You do not forget. I've had things that happen where someone did forget, and if they cancel, what their coverage is on the policy, that's all we'll pay.
Gotcha. So it sounds like anytime you're adding to your trip, you should be purchasing more insurance, number one. Yep. And if you're decreasing, you should be decreasing the insurance as you go along as well. And it's an easy process. It just takes maybe 5 minutes or less to do that. Can you buy, and you can change it up to 24 hours prior to departure? Like, so for example, if they want to decrease the amount of insurance,
we don't try and do that like right before they leave. because people they're like, we know we're leaving tomorrow. We don't want to pay. So they won't let you decrease it,
Got it.
before departure. They usually, it's like a week or, doing that. You have to have a reason. So that's why.
Okay. So COVID, I guess moving on a little bit, COVID has brought a lot of changes. Can you talk a little bit about cancel for fortuitous reasons and maybe the new platinum coverage that you guys have added to your policy?
Okay. So what we'll do first is I'm going to go through. So we have that base policy that I was talking about that covers covered reasons you can cancel for. So that is what happens at first. So you have your base plan of covered reasons. And remember when we were saying that you can buy that, what I call post-departure, after you leave. So what we call travel insurance benefits.
Right.
That travel insurance benefits right now is very important because countries are requiring to show that you have medical evac, trip delay to get into their country. So what we did there, so Turks and Caicos is, a big example of it. So you upload the sheet, you're done when you buy that post-departure if you didn't want cancellation coverage. We've now come up with what's called the Platinum Upgrade. And the Platinum Upgrade, why that came into effect is because of COVID. One, we're giving you $1,000 extra in trip delay, because how trip delay works, it's a per day amount. So we know you're going to be there, unfortunately, if you get quarantined or something happens, longer than 5 days. So that'll give you an extra 5 days. The Platinum package also gives you medical. So we go from $50,000 to $75,000. And for medical evac, that goes from $500,000 to $600,000. That package you definitely need for Costa Rica for going there, because that is their limits that are on the countries.
Got it.
Next thing is that we came out, because in the insurance companies world, what stopped selling when COVID hit was the cancel for any reason. So many of the insurance companies just pulled that because it was not, right there, you knew you were hitting huge losses. We've just brought back a new plan called Cancel Flex. In Cancel Flex, what that has is the covered reasons, plus it has an added reason to cancel for any reason. Cancel for any reason is called cancel for fortuitous reasons in New York. The reason in New York that cancel for fortuitous reasons had to be the wording, the regulators. And what that means is you have to state an unforeseen reason. So not that I'm going to say that you guys all state the reason, but let's just say right now I'm planning on going to, we'll use Turks. I look and there's a storm going to hit. Or there's rain, looks forecast of rain for the week. I would say here, I'm going to write down a fortuitous reason. I did not see that it was, the plan of it raining the week, and I do not want to go. Fortuitous, I had people that were then selling their house and their closing was going to be that day. So that's a fortuitous reasons. In other states, you would just have to write cancel for any reason on it. But please note, in our Cancel Flex, that's an extra policy, that it cannot be a complete cessation of service. There is an exclusion that's in there on it. Our Cancel Flex is an upgrade. You have to buy it within the 21 days, and the payout currently would be only 60% of your trip cost.
Got it. So that's.
Oh, and then let me just say, your trip cost cannot exceed $15,000 per person.
And then you have to cancel. I'm sorry, this is where I'm going to
48 hours prior.
48 hours prior, exactly. So
cancellation is you have to get notified or notification from the vendors that you canceled.
Gotcha.
So it's not that you have to file the claim, it's notification that the trip was canceled.
Got it. So you can't just say, I'm not going 48 hours. You have to have confirmation from everybody before
that you canceled 48 hours. Yeah.
That brings up the point that the most important thing about travel insurance is paper confirmations. When you're going through this and you're going to have a claim, all of that paper, all the documentation is always super important.
Yeah. The reason with that is the auditors, the insurance companies are heavily regulated and they get audited. So they can't do for one that they didn't do for the other. So that's why the paperwork and the backup. I always recommend, if for you guys traveling, let's say a trip delay, everybody has phones now. Take a picture of the delay where it says on the screen, the flight's delayed. So with that, I mean, the best is, so you have proof of that. Your luggage gets lost. Try to have as much proof, because unfortunately, that's what's going to speed up the claim in doing it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And we see that all the time over here. And then just to double check here, if you're forced to quarantine, that's where the trip delay coverage will come in, correct?
Correct.
And then it's basic on the benefits, on your normal insurance, it's there. But if you need more, and during COVID land, buying the platinum package allows you to have an additional benefit, an extra $1,000. It takes it from $1,000 to $2,000, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yes. And remember, though, you have to incur the expenses. So you have to incur the expenses in order for it to give you, we just don't give you $200 a day. You have to incur expenses. Gotcha. So trip delay would give you pay for incidentals, meals, hotels.
Yep.
So that type of stuff that it would pay for.
That makes total sense. Let's go through just one last thing. One of the coverages that's really important, especially for some people traveling, far away, maybe to Asia, to Africa, is medical evacuation. Let's talk about just two last things, and there's a couple other questions. Can you talk about how medical evacuation would work under the new COVID, under COVID, or if you get COVID, I guess is the first question. And then the second question is, the medical evacuation under travel insurance is very different than a medical evacuation service. They're two different things. So maybe if you can talk about those two different things.
Sure. So medical evac under COVID right now is very hard, because the only reason at this point that we would evac you out if you have COVID is if the facility you're in cannot handle your case. Because at that point, we have to get a private plane to come in to get you out, a medically induced private plane. So with that, right now, that would be the only reason in COVID world that you would get evac'd out. In a natural world, we'll just say evac'd out, you would get taken out from where you are. It's based on your medical. If you're stable to get on the plane, they would get you out. But COVID has dropped all those rules, because we put you on usually on a commercial plane. So that's the difference between if we go MedJet to ourselves, or, whatever part that you have, is those are a service. They're not an insurance company. So they'll take you from hospital to hospital. I know there's certain areas now, which I know of MedJet, that are flying COVID patients out. So they would fly if you have so they have a personal plane, they're private planes. We fly you out on a commercial plane.
Gotcha.
So that's the difference. And MedJet goes from hospital to hospital. There are other services right now, and I could share with you one, that do take you if you are quarantined. They will take you back home if you're quarantined. So there's a new company that came out. I don't know that much about them, but I know people have been inquiring and asking about that.
Gotcha. So we'll have to know that. Talking about COVID, we have one question. It's a little bit on the I'm not going to post it here because it's a little bit long, so it won't show up there. If somebody has to, prior to travel, somebody has to quarantine because of tracking or contact tracing, I'm assuming there's no coverage.
No, that's not a cover reason, because you're not ill.
You're not ill, right? So if you're forced to quarantine here in New York before your trip, that's impossible to insure at this point.
Correct.
Gotcha. And I think that also goes as another question in regards to travel bans. Again, the general thought is if a government shuts something down or puts in quarantine or stops flights, that is just not a covered reason. There's just no way to insure for those type of events.
No.
Gotcha. I think then the other last question that we have here is going to be, can you go over a little bit about the pregnancy reason? Because I remember you've had some stories about that and how some people are surprised that it's covered. You go over about the pregnancy issues. So we don't have any more COVID questions.
Yeah. So with pregnancy, if you buy the insurance and then become pregnant, you're eligible to cancel. It goes based on the date the doctor said you became pregnant. So at that point, you can decide if you want to go or you don't want to go. Now, let's just say here, if we go back to one of the past, we could talk about Zika, that type of thing where people canceled because they were pregnant and were, I'm going to say, afraid. They had a fear of going, but the fear wasn't the reason because that isn't covered under the plan, but the pregnancy is a covered reason. So that's how it goes, with a pregnancy doing it. So you have to become pregnant after you buy the insurance because remember, insurance is unforeseen.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't buy it after you become pregnant because the insurance company is going to look back to see if you became pregnant, after you bought it. So, well, that's perfect. I mean, I think in general, travel insurance is incredible. As you can tell, the last 20 minutes, travel insurance is incredibly complex, and we always ask and we go through the policy. It's important to understand what you want to insure and what you're worried about, and then also don't assume. We're here, Arch RoamRight is here is to answer those questions, to make sure that you understand what the coverage is. So many times, LA Travel Group advisors will grab their client and do a conference call with RoamRight and ask those specific questions that you might have. Because again, travel is personal and all of all the coverage is a little bit complicated. So it's really great to ensure that do the work to ensure that you have the coverage so you don't have any unforeseen surprises at the end.
Now, with that, what I just want to say, the one thing is, remember, none of us can guarantee your coverage. None of us can say it is covered. You have to fill out a claim form that goes to what we call our claims. It gets adjudicated. They are the ones that look at all the documentation and decide whether it is, based on our rules, a payable event. So the underwriters, it's when you present, it's the claims people, when you present your documents, that is when it is confirmed. We cannot confirm that it is, covered.
Got it. Well, with that said, Lynn, we appreciate all your time.
Thank you.
We've been working together for, 7 years now. And, every year, every situation is different and there's always questions to it. So we're here to help and guide our clients to purchase their travel insurance. So anyway, happy New Year.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.